deciding factor. This is my dream that I had. You're now experiencing it in this video. Are you ready to experience ASMR triggers? Experiencing every single trigger, whispers, and soothing mic scratching sounds. You ready for this journey? I am sure you are. Okay. Alright, hop in your beds. Hop in your beds. And I will take you into my dream. You're now transporting. And poof. Your dream starts. Apparently you are very, very, very hungry. Very hungry. I mean, as hungry as that you have not eaten breakfast and lunch. You're now inside this dream. And apparently in this dream, you do have a job interview coming up. You just recalled that in your dream self, you applied to a job literally a few days ago. And the position is the position of your dream job. So today is your day, and you have just walked into the lounge area or the lobby of the company that you're supposed to interview with. And your interview is in half an hour to an hour from now. More like an hour before. So you do not know the exact time of the interview, but you do know that it's in the afternoon, and you have up to 1 hour before you walk into that interview and shake hands with the manager. Luckily for you, there is a mini restaurant that's open just right beside you. And you decide to spend the juicy hour eating. And so you do walk into the restaurant and you order a few pieces of fried chicken and a bit of fries and a side of sweet lettuce, and a drink. Could be any drink. And then in no time you get the food. The food is very, very delicious, and you're so hungry. You're already eating half of the meal. You're already halfway through your meal. Super delicious. And as soon as you're continuing, like you're almost done, like you just have a quarter of your meal left, as soon as that happens, around that time, someone else comes. Apparently, one of your acquaintances that you made so, in my case, it was a girl from high school. So assume that it's a girl. Strike up a conversation. You do have been to strike up a conversation with this girl. And eventually, you bring up the term that you do have a job interview coming up. You kind of like the girl for some reason. Something is like, there's a charm that's like around the girl. You have good vibes with a girl. You're kind of really thinking, committing, but well, you just met her or something. But that moment kind of crashed because the next thing that happens is that someone else comes or something like that. That person is still at the door and she tells you, good luck for your job interview, you will need it. And so she starts turning her face and she looks at the guy that came into the restaurant from the door outside. And it's a guy. And he sits next to the girl. And now the girl turns away from you and pays attention to the guy, the other guy. So the guy comes and hugs the girl and starts to ignore you. While you slowly eat your chicken and lettuce. You are really enjoying your meal still, trying to keep away and ignore the girl because you're still hungry. But you cannot shake that feeling. And then all of a sudden, she brings her head close to the guy that came in and blows a kiss to the guy. You have barely finished your food. You only had one piece of chicken left, and it's barely attached to the fork. That piece of chicken indeed is attached to the fork, which will be very, very important later. So right after the girl kisses the guy, you make your way out and grab the fork that's attached to the last piece of chicken. And you just realize that you have 5-10 minutes before you're supposed to show up for the interview. And so you rush to the main reception and then you wait for the interviewer to show up. So for the next 3 minutes or so, I'm gonna give you a short ASMR trigger break with just noises. So, enjoy. feels like your interview is about to start. You have just done your break while you wait for the interview, and that 10 minutes felt super long, and a middle-aged woman comes up to you and shakes your hand. And she tells you, okay, come with me. And she takes you to a room with a table, a chair, an office chair, and another chair on the opposite side of the table. And she gets you to sit at one side of that table while she sits at the other side in her big throne-like chair. She introduces herself, but you do not remember her name. It's not very important. Whatever happens after is more important. So you do introduce your name, and you say nice to meet you, and you shake her hand again. By the time you expect her to ask you the very first question, like the typical job interview question, tell me about yourself, she instead asks you the question, so where you have been, or something like that. Maybe that's just an alias of, like, another variation of tell me about yourself, and you assume that's the question. And you then tell her about your previous education. Oh, hey, I went to this school, I went to this high school, I went to this college, blah blah blah. Your previous work experience, and why I should be hired to this role. And then things seem to go fine. She then asks you, why did you choose this place? By the time you try to answer that question, your stomach starts to act a bit funny. At first, you try to say a few words and trying to get out your answer out. You're saying, I am a great fit. I am a hard-working person who's reliable, blah blah blah. But then that tingly station, that sensation, you start to feel it more. Your stomach now turns from tingly into pain. And now it feels like your stomach is breaking down. It's like your intestines are melting. Your intestines. It's upset. Now at this point, the pain is so much that you're not going to be able to continue answering that question. She then tells you, do you feel okay? With a very concerned look on her face. You then say, oh, I am so sorry. I don't think I'll be able to do this, or something like that. You clearly don't feel well. And then she then tells you, we could meet another time. At this point, you feel really, really bad. You then feel embarrassed. And you think that you have wasted her time, and also your time, and money of trying to consider hiring you. And the fact that you would like to excuse yourself. She then tells you, okay, don't worry. We're ending this interview. I will follow you up in a few days, and we can schedule another meeting. And I'm gonna go follow you up or something like that. You do not remember the exact lines. Apparently, you then somehow see other people coming out from another door. Maybe they're employees, you don't know. Apparently, not even Chinese or Japanese, it's some different language that you've never heard before. The whole process of you sitting down on this particular chair and behind a door, one of the other doors is at the back is apparently the workplace of this company. You see other people who apparently work at this company. Again, they're speaking in some other language that you don't even recognize. And apparently, you got a feeling that they're discussing about you. Apparently. And you have this weird feeling that you fucked up. Yeah, you really messed up, like literally. You fuck up. And you kind of think to yourself that you've bombed the interview. You decide to tell the interviewer, well, thank you for your time, to try to end it with a soft note, despite apparently that the interview did not go well. You make your efforts to be polite, but you really want to leave and not embarrass her anymore or anyone else working for that company, and just assume to throw that it's just over and just throw in the towel for that particular job. And so you do walk out of the place. You do try to walk out of the place, and apparently you accidentally left the last piece of chicken that's attached to the fork. You don't remember putting it there before walking into that interview. You just know that you apparently left the piece of chicken that's still attached to the fork at the counter right beside the doorway that leads up to the interview room. So we decide to quickly eat the last piece of chicken. And as soon as you are munching on that chicken that's still attached to the fork that you apparently taken from that restaurant that you ate prior to the interview, that interviewer you just interviewed with spotted you right in your face, and then you get a shock, like, how is she there? And then after that shock, you wake up. Following you waking up, you just don't know whether she had taken you for the role or that she put you in the rejection pile. You just happen to finish your dream and you wake up in real life. And your dream is over. So, that is the end of this dream imagination experience. You were inside my dream. I had this dream like a few days ago. Well, actually, it was a dream that I had when I came back from university, took a nap, and then had this dream. So, like, it was a long day. I had class in the morning, then a big break where I come home and sleep, and then go back to university for another class in the evening. And that's where I had this dream. So this was an opportunity to make a new video for this experience. And please give this video a like if you have gotten your tingles. I would really appreciate that. sleep credit card. So if you don't want to miss any of my future content, please hit that subscribe. Alright, so I'm gonna go sleep, and I'll see you next time.